And the nightmare wasn't just the trip. It was discovering that the privilege of royalty, doesn't automatically survive after you quit your job.
But 47 minutes is not a reconciliation. It's not a get-together, we're so thrilled to see you.
Page 6 is reporting that Meghan Markle felt humiliated on Prince Harry's most recent UK trip, and that the trip turned into a nightmare, forcing Markle and her children to return home to California earlier than they had hoped.
She walked into that room expecting her father's warm welcome. She walked out knowing nothing would ever be the same again. But those 47 minutes at Highgrove matter for more than just what happened behind closed doors. They also gave people a rare look at how she handled one of the most intense moments of pressure in her life. Before those 47 minutes, it's important to understand where she really stood. Not just physically, but emotionally, financially, and strategically. For 7 years, one message shaped almost everything.
Her husband lost big in court. No one wants to be seen on the arm of a loser. I think that this trip was a reality check. Harry has spent years insisting he can be half in and half out of the monarch.
We left because the monarchy was toxic. We left because they were racist. We left to protect our family. Over time, though, that message didn't seem to carry the same weight with many people. Some noticed what they saw as mixed signals, especially after the public claims about racism were followed by a visit to the king. Calls for privacy were followed by a steady stream of media coverage. Harsh criticism of the royal family was later matched by public talk of reconciliation. To many observers, those changes raised more questions than they answered. With every new twist, critics argued that the public story kept shifting because the original approach no longer seemed to be getting the same response. By early summer, the pressure appeared to be growing.
Noticeably, one person was not at the show. His supposed good friend and collaborator, according to her, the Duchess of Sussex. And this is where it gets juicy. Paula's source revealed. Oh God, no! She was not invited. Not after what happened last time.
The Netflix deal had ended. The Spotify partnership was over. Reports suggested fashion brands were no longer lining up with opportunities. There had also been a legal setback involving the Daily Mail, including a reported £50 million payment and a 400-page judgment. The judge's conclusion was direct. I don't find your evidence credible. Based on reports attributed to palace insiders, some commentators speculated she may have been thinking, I need the king. I need the institution. I need one moment where I'm back inside, where I'm legitimate again. Whether that private thought is accurate can't be confirmed, but it reflects how some observers interpreted the situation. For many people, the bigger issue became accountability. Someone taking responsibility might have said, I made choices. I criticised this family publicly. Now I'm facing the consequences of those decisions.
Other point to make is Harry and Meghan were kept waiting, encircling Highgrove for some considerable length of time, not even sure that the meeting was going to take place.
To many observers, it looked like a straightforward case of actions leading to consequences. Instead of acknowledging how events had unfolded, she appeared to stick to the same public narrative. Some critics even believed she still saw the palace as needing her more than she needed it. Most people would agree that when mistakes happen, the next step is to learn from them and adjust. When relationships have been deeply damaged, rebuilding trust usually begins with humility, patience, and listening, instead of expecting an immediate welcome. Critics argue that wasn't the approach taken here, and they see the outcome as the result of those choices rather than simple bad luck. No one reportedly knew for certain the meeting would happen until just hours beforehand. The first signal, according to reports, was clear. This wasn't her schedule to control.
It doesn't, and that was, I thought, the reaction. It wasn't hostility, it wasn't hate from the British public, it was just disinterest, which I think they probably despise more than anything because they want attention.
Some accounts suggested there had been hope for more flexibility, but that never seemed to happen. Instead came the reports of the vehicle driving around Highgrove for an extended period. It may have been nothing more than a security procedure. Still, many observers believed it also carried a message. You wait until you're invited. For someone often described as wanting to stay in control, critics viewed that moment as an early sign that the situation was unfolding differently than expected. Next came another detail that caught attention. Reports claimed Harry entered alone instead of going in together. Some commentators viewed that as intentional. The message in their eyes was simple: we'll talk to him.
I don't know that Meghan and Harry are simply not good for anyone really, apart from themselves now. They are a couple that are in a rapid decline. I mean, as I said, the Emmy thing will not change anything. It won't matter what they're doing because ultimately everybody's now seen the act.
You wait. According to those reports, she remained outside with the children while the meeting took place. Critics saw that as a sign she wasn't part of the discussion or included in those conversations. Then there were the 47 minutes, not 45, not 50. Exactly 47! To many observers, the timing appeared carefully planned from beginning to end. There was no shared meal, no relaxed family setting, no photographs, and no indication of extended negotiations. Reports from insiders described it as following official protocol, making the meeting seem more like a formal obligation than a warm family reunion. Another detail that drew attention was the reported presence of Camilla. According to reports citing palace insiders, it was made clear that Camilla would be present or the meeting would not go ahead. Some observers interpreted that as a way to keep the conversation structured and accountable. From their perspective, the message seemed to be, this isn't being handled as a private family matter. At some point, during those 47 minutes, many commentators believe the reality became difficult to ignore. This wasn't presented as a major victory. It wasn't a photo opportunity, and there was no clear sign that a full reconciliation had taken place. To many observers, the message appeared straightforward.
97 claims died. 97 claims against the Daily Mail were thrown out.
Yes, because the evidence wasn't there, and as we've learnt, suspicion is one thing. I've got a lot of suspicion about Harry and his teams.
We'll meet once, but nothing changes. You're still outside the institution, and your role remains the same. When the meeting ended, there were no photographs of a warm family embrace, no social media celebration, and no public display suggesting everything had been resolved. For many people watching, that reinforced the impression that the meeting was formal and carefully managed, rather than symbolic or emotional. Many observers felt the situation could have unfolded differently. When someone is given a chance to reconnect with family after a difficult period, they often start by listening, showing appreciation for the opportunity, and rebuilding trust one step at a time. Critics argue that accepting the palace's position would also have required acknowledging past mistakes, and they believe that became a significant hurdle. Palace meetings rarely become major public stories, yet many commentators felt this one drew unusual attention. Some even speculated there may have been hopes that simply being seen with the king or having a photograph released could help reshape the public narrative and create the impression of renewed acceptance. But no photo was ever released. To many observers, that wasn't viewed as a simple privacy decision.
I really do, but that's not evidence. And you can't go to court, so it's amazing that the lawyers, and I find 50 million for this case extraordinary. Somebody is milking the system.
They believed it also helped keep the meeting strictly formal and prevented the public from reading more into it than the available facts supported. Many commentators felt one reality became hard to overlook. Any leverage she may have believed she still had appeared to be fading. Without a photograph, there was no powerful image to influence public opinion. Without a joint appearance, there was no visible sign of a renewed relationship. Without any public show of support, talk of a dramatic return seemed far less convincing. Then came a comparison that some critics considered even more striking. While she was reportedly waiting outside Highgrove, Prince William was attending a polo event, appearing calm and comfortable in his public role. Around the same time, Catherine was photographed carrying out official engagements, with many observers describing her appearances as focused on her responsibilities rather than on attracting attention. For many people watching, that contrast stood out. The working royals appeared to continue with their duties without trying to create a defining public moment or seek extra validation. Meanwhile, according to reports, she remained outside the property, hoping for some sign that could be interpreted as a positive outcome. Commentators who followed the story closely argued that the difference between those situations was difficult to ignore. Supporters of William and Catherine often say their public standing comes from years of official work and consistent appearances rather than carefully timed photo opportunities.
Was, in their minds, Harry and Meghan's redemption, that their big return, and how they were going to turn things around. They were no longer going to poll next to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. They were coming home, and everybody was going to be thrilled to see them. And then you had Chris Shipp and Alison Hammond and all those regular characters.
Critics argue she never fully understood why that difference carried so much weight. According to those critics, when a strategy failed, the response didn't appear to be, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to change. Instead, they believe the focus remained on finding a stronger narrative, a better strategy, or the right image to influence public opinion. Many commentators argue that challenging moments don't create someone's character, they reveal it. Many commentators argue that difficult moments don't create character, they reveal it. To those observers, the 47 minutes reinforced their belief that the focus was placed more on strategy than sincerity, more on managing public perception than rebuilding trust, and more on seeking support than offering it. Many royal commentators believe the palace's approach was intentional. In their view, it wasn't about being harsh, it was about establishing clear boundaries. The message they believe was being sent was, your role hasn't changed. We're not presenting this as a return, and we're not suggesting anything beyond this meeting. Afterward, attention quickly shifted to another development that fueled debate. Observers noticed updates to the royal website and began discussing what those changes might mean. Supporters of the palace argued the update simply reflected the reality that Harry and Meghan were no longer working members of the royal family, rather than signalling any form of reconciliation or renewed role. To many people following the story, the overall message appeared straightforward.
Elevating this myth. But unfortunately for Meghan, everything just blew up in their faces.
Their official status had changed, and the way they were presented publicly now reflected that reality. Many observers also felt the emphasis had shifted away from what might happen next and toward acknowledging how the situation currently stood. Some commentators compared the situation with Prince Andrew's, while also stressing that the circumstances were very different. They pointed out that Andrew stepped back from public duties following the controversy surrounding him and has largely remained out of the spotlight. Critics argue she took a different approach by continuing to make public appearances and publicly challenge perceptions surrounding her situation. From the perspective of those commentators, the palace continued on its established course without changing its position. For many observers, it served as another reminder that long-standing institutions are often viewed as continuing their course, regardless of the individuals connected to them. For someone widely viewed as connecting a large part of her public identity to the royal family, many commentators saw those official changes as far more than a routine update. To them, they carried real symbolic weight. There was no dramatic announcement and no public confrontation, but critics believed the message was clear. The institution was moving forward, without restoring her previous role. Many royal observers argue that's how long-established institutions often operate. Instead of responding through public arguments or lengthy explanations, they usually communicate through formal decisions and official actions. In their view, those actions often speak louder than public statements. To many people following the story, this reinforced a familiar point. Institutions that have existed for generations are often seen as carrying more influence than any single individual. That's one reason debates like this continue to attract so much attention and spark so many different opinions. Many commentators also focus on the psychological side of the story. They argue that for years she presented herself as remaining closely connected to the royal family and its legacy.
And the other part was basically to put Harry and Meghan in their place and to make them understand that they are not in the driving seat anymore. And then, of course, it only took a few seconds for that to be confirmed.
Critics believe the official changes pointed to a different reality. From their perspective, it wasn't about personal hostility. They see it as an example of how institutions with centuries of history typically function. Supporters of the monarchy often argue that such institutions endure because they aren't dependent on the approval of any one person. From that viewpoint, critics believe the greatest loss wasn't necessarily financial or even connected to titles. Instead, they argue it was the loss of official standing and the public perception of still belonging within the institution. Around the same period, another major setback was also attracting attention. Before the trip, there had been a court loss involving a reported £50 million and a 400-page judgment. The judge's conclusion was direct. "I don't find your evidence credible." For many observers, that ruling added even more pressure during an already difficult time. Many people recognise that a significant court loss can bring expensive legal bills, potential appeal costs, and insurance issues that can quickly become overwhelming. Then came a reported remark attributed to Elton John, "I'm not a bank, Harry." The quote has been widely discussed, although its context has been debated. Some critics interpreted it as a blunt message that financial support might not always be available. From there, attention quickly turned to the numbers. The financial picture became a major topic of discussion. Commentators pointed to what they described as significant ongoing expenses, including legal fees, security costs in Montecito, property taxes, mortgage payments, and the cost of maintaining staff such as assistants, managers, and childcare.
What she didn't receive was the photo opportunity that she so desperately wanted. What she didn't get was the chance to unveil the children's faces at a public royal event or royal adjacent event.
Taken together, many argued those commitments could add up to a substantial amount. At the same time, the Netflix deal had ended and the Spotify partnership was over. That led some observers to question what the long-term income outlook might be. Some royal commentators also speculated about possible insurance-related disputes, suggesting certain types of coverage could become more complicated because of legal issues. Those claims remain speculative, but they became part of the wider public discussion. According to some commentators, this wasn't seen as just another legal setback. They believed it raised broader questions about long-term financial stability. Some financial analysts have speculated that if spending remained high without major new income sources, meaningful financial pressure could develop over the next 18 to 36 months. That estimate is only a projection, but it has been widely discussed by observers.
Which would have then allowed her to spend the next year pimping out the kids as much as possible for her business. Now, I know all of the briefing is, oh no, it's Meghan who didn't want to reveal the children's faces. Well, we all know that's a total lie because we can see how close she's come to doing it time and again on Instagram.
For many people, the conversation then shifted to a bigger question. How do people respond when pressure keeps building? Do they pause, reassess, and change course? Or do they continue following the same strategy even as the challenges grow? Critics argue she appeared to stay focused on maintaining the same public image while legal costs and other pressures continued to increase. Many people have seen similar situations before, where successful individuals struggle to recognize when circumstances have changed. According to those commentators, that can make difficult problems even harder to overcome over time. The sequence of events also became a major talking point. The court loss came first. After that, attention shifted to discussions about changes to her royal status. Then came news of an Emmy nomination during a period when many commentators were already speculating about financial pressures. It was a daytime Emmy nomination rather than a primetime Emmy, with categories that include programming, such as daytime talk shows, game shows, and soap operas.
Actually had was, I think, a balding and odd-looking, sort of cocky Prince Harry at that event on his own. Yet on the same day, we saw Catherine and William being, the most lovely married couple.
For some critics, the timing added another layer to an already heavily discussed story. Critics argued that for someone whose public image had long been associated with a luxury lifestyle and major media success, the recognition didn't match the level of achievement they believed it was being presented as. They also pointed to enthusiastic reactions online, saying the celebration made the moment appear larger than it was. Another topic raised by commentators involved the awards process itself. Some noted that certain award programs charge entry fees, while also acknowledging that nominations are still judged according to each organisation's official rules. She later shared an Instagram message thanking my amazing team. Around the same time, Netflix had decided not to continue the show, adding another twist to the ongoing public conversation. Critics pointed to what they saw as several setbacks unfolding at once. They argued that some products were reportedly not selling as expected, legal battles had become increasingly expensive, and the palace meeting did not appear to produce the outcome that some observers had anticipated. For many people watching, moments like these often present two choices: adapt to changing circumstances, or continue insisting everything is still on track. According to her critics, she appeared to choose the second path. They see it as an example of avoiding difficult realities instead of addressing them directly. In their view, refusing to acknowledge mistakes can allow challenges to build over time until they become much more difficult to resolve. You can't solve a problem if you refuse to admit it exists. While William and Catherine continued carrying out their public duties and the palace remained focused on the institution, critics argued she appeared to be celebrating an award they considered relatively modest. To those observers, the contrast stood out and became another major point of discussion. Many commentators say this wasn't about one disappointing moment. They believe it reflected what they see as a much broader pattern. In their view, repeated decisions can gradually shape how the public sees someone's judgment and character. One example frequently mentioned involves a reported appearance at a major fashion event. According to those accounts, she arrived late, reacted loudly after a model stumbled on the runway, left before the event concluded, and was later reported by some critics to have taken more credit for the event
at the polo, with a little bit of PDA, which I think they probably knew would very easily bump Harry's awkward hugs with Alison Hammond off the front pages,
than organisers felt was appropriate. Commentators also point to a reported remark from the designer, "Never again." According to those reports, the goal was straightforward. We want attention on the clothes, not on her. Critics argued the issue wasn't simply about etiquette. They believe it reflected poor judgment, saying that when someone is invited to another person's event, the spotlight should remain on the hosts, the designers, and the work being presented, not on creating a separate headline. Some commentators have also highlighted Netflix's decision not to continue the show, along with reports that several other projects were shelved. In addition, unnamed sources quoted in various reports have claimed she was difficult to work with and resistant to direction. Those claims have not been independently confirmed, but they have become part of the wider public conversation. Critics point to a series of professional setbacks that they believe follow a similar pattern. They note that the Spotify partnership ended, while other reported opportunities appeared to fade without much public explanation. Some commentators have also claimed that major fashion and celebrity magazines have shown less interest in future features or collaborations, although those reports vary and remain unverified. For many observers, the discussion goes beyond any single relationship or project. Instead, they ask whether similar outcomes across different industries point to a broader pattern. Many commentators argue that having a disagreement with one organisation can happen, but when similar issues are reported repeatedly, people naturally begin looking for larger trends. But when similar concerns are reported across several organisations, many commentators believe it's reasonable to ask whether they point to a recurring pattern. Critics argue she often appeared to respond to setbacks by questioning the decisions made by others, rather than asking, "What could I do differently?" In their view, the focus remained on defending the original approach instead of adapting as circumstances changed. Most people understand that every career includes setbacks. The usual path is to make mistakes, learn from them, and improve over time. Many observers believe that when similar feedback comes from different people across multiple situations, it's worth considering whether there is a common thread. Critics argue she didn't make those adjustments. They point to reported challenges involving fashion brands, Netflix, Spotify, and various media organizations as examples of that perception. While acknowledging that many of the details remain disputed and open to interpretation, at the same time, royal commentators began looking ahead. They suggested that if the palace continued making administrative or public-facing updates, such as changes to official biographies or the way former working royals are presented, those decisions could further reinforce the distinction between active and non-working members of the royal family.
specifically this big scoop that you have revealed in terms of Elton John's relationship with Prince Harry. He says, "I am not a bank, Harry," and this is potentially, for Harry, the worst possible news, because it means he could be financially wiped.
Some commentators also turned their attention to royal titles. They noted there is historical precedent for changes to titles under certain circumstances, although they emphasized that any future decision would depend on established legal and constitutional processes rather than public speculation alone. Many observers consider such a move unlikely in the near future. Others have instead focused on financial pressures. They argue that if spending remained high without significant new income, maintaining the same lifestyle could become increasingly difficult over time. Some analysts have suggested a possible window of roughly 18 to 36 months before serious financial strain might emerge, although those projections remain speculative and should not be viewed as confirmed outcomes. Critics argue that responding to growing challenges often requires adapting to changing circumstances rather than continuing with the same strategy. In their view, the willingness to adjust can make a major difference when pressure begins to build. Prediction 4 focuses on the marriage, although any discussion about the relationship remains entirely speculative. Some commentators have suggested that continued public scrutiny and financial pressure could place additional strain on any couple. Their argument is that professional success can sometimes ease tension, while ongoing setbacks may create new challenges within a relationship. These are opinions rather than established facts. Others have also speculated about possible financial arrangements or family considerations if the relationship were ever to change. Those discussions remain hypothetical, and there is no confirmed evidence that such developments are expected. Prediction 5 centers on the family's future, though any claims about private family matters are also speculative. Some commentators have questioned what issues could become important if circumstances were ever to change. Supporters of these predictions argue they are examining recurring patterns of behavior rather than claiming to know what will happen next. They believe that when someone repeatedly avoids responsibility, blames outside factors, or relies heavily on public approval, similar challenges may continue to appear. Whether that assessment is fair remains open to debate, but many royal observers believe the palace has consistently based its decisions on long-term institutional priorities rather than short-term public reactions. Many royal commentators argue the palace's strategy has never been to engage in a public battle. Instead, they believe it has relied on official actions and formal decisions to communicate its position. In their view, each step further clarified the institution's stance, and moments of pressure often reveal how people respond when circumstances become more difficult. It's a pattern many people recognize from family life, business, and public disputes. Sometimes, when people don't adapt, changing circumstances leave them facing difficult choices. For many observers, all of these events lead back to the meeting at Highgrove, which they view as a significant turning point. More broadly, they argue the story reflects a larger lesson about the relationship between individuals and long-standing institutions. In their view, a couple publicly challenged the institution and presented a very different account of what had happened. According to supporters of the monarchy, however, the institution continued operating much as it always had. Rather than responding publicly to every criticism or accusation, it relied on its established processes and moved forward. To many royal commentators, that approach was intentional rather than dramatic. The palace did not publicly defend itself. It did not respond to every headline or engage in every public dispute.
He's the author of his own misfortune time and time again, and sadly, he is neurotic as far as some of my friends who are reporters on the Daily Mail, and I've known them for 30 years, and I would trust them implicitly.
Instead, many royal commentators argue it continued following its usual procedures. They believe that's how institutions with centuries of history are designed to function, by relying on established rules and placing the institution above any one individual. Many supporters of the monarchy also highlight what they see as a contrast with William and Catherine. In their view, the Prince and Princess of Wales have focused on carrying out their public responsibilities within the system and allowing their work to speak for itself rather than constantly trying to influence the public narrative. Supporters argue that approach has helped strengthen public confidence in William and Catherine over time while providing stability in their roles. By contrast, Critics believe Harry and Meghan became increasingly isolated after stepping away from royal duties and following a different path. Many commentators see a broader lesson in that comparison. They argue that lasting organisations, businesses, families, and institutions often depend on people respecting shared responsibilities and established rules, rather than expecting the institution to revolve around any single individual. Many supporters of the monarchy believe that duty, respect, and honour are strengths rather than weaknesses. They argue that real character is shown by how people work within established systems, respect boundaries, and respond when circumstances don't go their way. Critics believe she struggled in those areas, while supporters say William and Catherine have continued to demonstrate those qualities through their public roles and long-term commitment to their responsibilities. To many observers, the larger lesson goes beyond one family. They believe it's about how people respond to responsibility, setbacks, and the expectations that come with long-standing institutions. In their view, those choices can shape a person's reputation and legacy over time. For many commentators, those 47 minutes at Highgrove were never seen as a warm family reunion. Instead, they viewed the meeting as a significant turning point. They argue it reflected how long-established institutions tend to operate by maintaining clear boundaries, following established procedures, and staying consistent, rather than changing direction because of outside pressure or public debate. Many observers believe the events that followed from official changes and professional setbacks to continued public debate and financial speculation all became part of one much larger story. Whether you agree with that interpretation or see things differently, the discussion continues because it raises bigger questions about accountability, reputation, and how long-standing institutions respond over time. That's why this story still sparks so much debate. What do you think? Was the meeting at Highgrove a carefully managed turning point, or has the entire situation been judged too harshly? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please give the video a like, subscribe for more in-depth royal analysis, and share this video with anyone who follows the royal family. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.